Thank you to the panel coordinators for inviting me to speak today. I'm Meredith Hatch. I'm representing the Corporation for National and Community Service, an independent federal agency in the United States of America. We bring leadership, resources, coordination, focus, and scale to America's voluntary sector. The U.S. Embassy brought me to Slovenia to talk about volunteering in the United States. Specifically, today I'll talk about corporate volunteering, which is widespread in the United States. I'll provide a bit of background about the federal agency that I work with, the Corporation for National and Community Service. Next, I'll talk about some types of corporate volunteering that take place in the United States, highlighting especially skilled volunteering and something called pro bono volunteering. Finally, I'll close with some of the benefits of corporate volunteering to companies, to employees who volunteer, and to the community. So first of all, the Corporation for National and Community Service is, again, a federal agency that supports a network of state service commissions in each of the 50 states, as well as in U.S. tribal lands and in territories. Through this network, we support intermediary organizations that are non-governmental organizations, grantees, and sponsors who support individuals who volunteer for a year. Millions of Americans volunteer through the support of the Corporation for National and Community Service to help our most vulnerable citizens. I think that this is all in light, of course, of the tremendous social and economic challenges taking place throughout the world, but also in the United States, and making sure that we can provide solutions to some of the huge challenges. One of these solutions is corporate volunteering. So I'll talk again about a couple types of volunteering. My colleagues on the panel, I think, will talk about similar types of corporate volunteering, which I think provides helpful context that the corporate volunteering arena has similarities across the globe. So the first is corporate philanthropy. And this is making direct contributions to an NGO or to a cause. This includes direct cash contributions, contributions in grants, and these are typically what the NGO would provide is recognition of this funding. In larger organizations, frequently, the funding comes through a corporate philanthropy. Next, I'll talk a little bit about corporate sponsorship. And this is when a corporation provides either in-kind or cash support to offset the costs or underwrite an event, a special campaign, or a coordinated effort. Frequently, this support comes through a marketing or a promotions department. And third, employee volunteering. This is when the corporate governance structure allows employees to have time off and to volunteer. Sometimes the employees actually get paid for their volunteer work. These programs are often coordinated by a community relations department. And this can take place over the long term, so an employee might volunteer every week, once a week, through their organization. Or it might be a large volunteering day. I'll touch on one of the challenges here. It's very important for nonprofit organizations and the corporate agency to determine what capacities are needed to make this type of a situation work. It certainly does not work when there is a huge group of volunteers who come, for example, to paint or to do some type of activity that they think would be exceptionally helpful. perhaps the nonprofit organization doesn't have the paint, or they don't need something painted. So one of the supports that we recommend is that there is a relationship that starts long before this day of volunteering. Often we recommend that the corporation provides a liaison who is responsible for determining the needs or asking about the needs of the nonprofit organization and making sure that the corporate support would in fact address one of those needs. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about one type of employee volunteering that's called pro bono volunteering. And pro bono is essentially the donation of professional services that are included in an employee's job description, and for which the nonprofit recipient would otherwise have to pay. I think that this is an especially important way of providing skilled support for nonprofits that allows both parties to benefit a great deal. So let me talk a little bit about the origin of pro bono volunteering, which comes from the legal field. The longstanding practice of providing free legal services to organizations or people in need. So the same word, different situation. Some examples of pro bono volunteering might include a web developer making a website for a nonprofit organization, a marketing firm working with a nonprofit organization to provide a strategy specifically for marketing a new program, a human resources specialist working with a nonprofit organization to create a system for performance reviews. I think that this is one of the most overlooked ways that corporations can assist the nonprofit sector in these core business services that there's not enough time and there's not enough expertise in many nonprofits to support. So the human resources, the administrative, the grant writing, those are really important, and they're ways that the corporate sector can benefit the nonprofit sector. So those are a few examples. Next, I'll talk a little bit about skilled volunteering. I realize in hindsight that perhaps I should have said skilled volunteering first and then pro bono, because pro bono volunteering is a part of skilled volunteering. And that's essentially making sure that volunteers use some of the skills that they already have in the volunteering that they're doing. So an example of this would be a teacher who may take time after school one day a week to tutor young children in their subject matter of expertise. It might be a scientist tutoring young children in science. Though I am a public employee, I actually do skilled volunteering every week. And I work with a woman who is new to the United States and would like to get her citizenship. And so I tutor her in literacy and in citizenship. So finally, I mentioned that I would talk about some of the benefits of corporate volunteering. I'll talk about the benefits to companies, the benefits to employees, and finally, the benefits to the community. The company benefits quite a good deal, especially in the United States. And I'll start with something that I think is becoming more apparent than ever. Companies get more business in the United States when they market their social responsibility. So if you turn on the television any given night, you'll see an ad for something as simple as cleaning detergent for your clothes. And companies specifically have ads where they show donations of laundry detergent to people who are in disaster-stricken areas where they don't have a way to clean their clothes. These ads are hugely successful, and it's a way of the company marketing what they're doing for the greater good so that they have more sales. I'll talk, though, especially next about The benefits to the company, because their employees who are volunteering do a better job. So they have higher morale, they have higher company loyalty, so they'll stay working where they're working, and they're more productive. Frankly, because they get to do a little something extra during the day than their typical tasks. Many companies market the fact that they are socially responsible when they are marketing their positions to especially baby boomers and to millennials. Different generations, but both are driven by that social responsibility. They have stronger customer loyalty, additional investors, and an improved return on that community investment. So talking about advertising their good work to get more sales. The employees certainly benefit as well. They have stronger skills. They have skills that they can apply to different situations. They have that higher morale that helps their employers, but it also helps them. They have larger networks. So whereas before they may have worked just inside their company, now they've worked in the community. They may have worked with NGOs. They may have worked with a network of NGOs. They're introduced to a whole different working world. They also often have more opportunity to advance because of these higher skills and larger networks. And finally, what I think is most important is the benefit to the community through corporate volunteering. So they're improved, expanded nonprofit services. They're diminished social problems. There is a more active community, often a better economy, and a better quality of life overall. Thank you. Thank you. I think that there are a couple things that need to exist in order to support strong corporate volunteering. And one of those I think is exceptionally important, and I think that that's a true policy with a corporation on exactly how they'll support corporate volunteering, whether it's through dollars or through people. If it's written down and then from the top down it's supported by management, I think that those are exceptionally important, because if it's just words, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. I think it has to have true support at different levels. I think, too, talking about large organizations and corporations versus smaller ones, I think large corporations may be, because they are larger and because they may have more money and more of a profit, then it may be easier for them to give funds specifically or have larger volunteering initiatives, which I think are particularly helpful for their type of organization. I think that smaller companies can get involved through pro bono and skilled volunteering, because even if they're just 5 staff members, they're still able to contribute. Thank you. Consumer side. I think in the United States, where there is ability to choose between who you purchase goods and services from, I think that corporate social responsibility is a factor in how people choose where they're going to buy these goods and services. So it may be a decision between Coke or Pepsi. It may be a decision between 2 local businesses that offer gardening services. Which one have they, did they see planted flowers in front of the nursery school where they drop their children off every day? Which one didn't? So that would be a huge factor in deciding where the purchasing dollars go. I think that I would absolutely agree with my colleague from UPS that it also is extremely important for companies to think about their human capital and how to make sure their human capital is the most effective and innovative that they can be, And I think that corporate responsibility programs help incubate that, so that workers are stronger, they are smarter in different environments, and they're more committed to doing a good job at their place of employment. I'll talk briefly about how nonprofits can encourage social or corporate social responsibility. And I think one of the ways that they can do that is, depending on what capacity they have, whether they're small or large, whether they have a strong administration or not, asking for specific services of corporations. So thinking about where the good fit might be. So if it's a smaller organization, instead of just going to a corporation saying, we need money, or we need help, saying, we need 50 hours of somebody in human capital's side or time to help us come up with a pay structure, or help us come up with written policies around maternity leave, or something like that. So asking for something specifically that they need. I think that on the corporate side, I think what we're seeing more and more of in the United States is, in some ways, employee-driven corporate social responsibility. So employees saying, we want this to happen, and organizing themselves to do volunteer activity. I think that that's fairly common, and I think what is exceptionally important is having the support of management to do that, and to formalize it where it makes sense. So those are some of the ways that I see corporate volunteering growing. I'll talk specifically, as a federal agency in the United States, my agency actually asks for measurement of different volunteering efforts. And the measurement is typically in 3 areas. The first is impact on the community need. So whatever that community need is, whether it's a health need, an environmental need, an education need, asking about what actually happened as a result of that volunteering. The second thing is we ask for measurement of the effect on the participants, so of the actual volunteers. Are they more motivated at their jobs? Do they feel their skills have grown? Those types of questions. The third is we ask for the impact on an institution broadly, but what that means, I think, in this situation is the impact on the company. So, did profits rise? Did attendance at work increase? Those types of questions. I think that something that is often overlooked, and I would encourage corporate volunteering to take a look at, is what's happening to the nonprofits. Is their capacity rising and increasing because of it, because of the corporate volunteering? Are they better set to meet community needs? And making sure that corporate volunteering efforts are indeed helpful to the nonprofit organization. I think in general they are, but I think it's important to make sure that the specific organization's needs are met.